thought I was coming home to an empty house. Instead, I found a theater-style setup in the living room. My family, friends, and neighbors sat watching footage of my secret life. My spouse stood next to the screen, saying, "Let's give her a round of applause." I never imagined my life would unravel in such a public and humiliating way. What began as a seemingly ordinary day turned into a nightmare that exposed my deepest secrets to those I held dear. It was a warm Saturday afternoon in our quiet neighborhood in Atlanta, Georgia. The kind of day where the sun cast a golden hue over the manicured lawns and the scent of barbecues wafted through the air. I had spent the morning running errands, trying to distract myself from the gnawing guilt that had taken residence in my heart. For months, I had been leading a double life, entangled in an affair that I knew was wrong, but couldn't seem to end. As I pulled into our driveway, I noticed an unusual number of cars parked along the curb. My husband's sedan was there, along with vehicles belonging to our close friends, family members, and even some neighbors. A sense of unease settled over me. We hadn't planned any gatherings, and the sight of so many familiar cars made my heart race. Stepping into the house, I was greeted by an eerie silence. The living room, usually a place of comfort and warmth, had been transformed. Chairs were arranged theater-style, all facing a large screen that dominated the room. Every seat was occupied by someone I knew, my parents, siblings, in-laws, closest friends, and neighbors. Their expressions ranged from shock to disappointment, eyes fixed on the screen. My husband, Daniel, stood beside the screen. His face was a mask of controlled emotion, but I could see the pain lurking beneath. As I entered, all eyes turned to me, and the room fell into a heavy silence. "Ah, here she is," Daniel's voice cut through the tension. "Let's give her a round of applause." The sarcasm in his tone was unmistakable. A few people shifted uncomfortably, while others looked away, unable to meet my gaze. Confusion and dread coiled in my stomach as I tried to make sense of the scene before me. "Daniel, what's going on?" I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. He gestured toward the screen. "Why don't you have a seat and watch? I'm sure you'll find it enlightening." With trembling legs, I lowered myself into the only empty chair, positioned conspicuously at the front. The screen flickered, and a video began to play. To my horror, it was footage of me with him. Intimate moments captured without my knowledge, displayed now for everyone to see. Gasps echoed around the room. My mother covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. My father shook his head in disbelief. Friends exchanged uneasy glances, while neighbors whispered among themselves. The weight of their judgment was suffocating. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the screen. Every embrace, every stolen kiss, every betrayal was laid bare. The man in the videos wasn't Daniel. It was someone I had met during a work conference in Chicago, a fleeting connection that spiraled into a full-blown affair. I thought I had been discreet, covering my tracks meticulously. Clearly, I was wrong. As the video ended, Daniel turned to face me. "How long?" he demanded, his voice shaking with emotion. Tears blurred my vision. 6 months, I admitted, my voice barely audible. A collective murmur rippled through the room. The betrayal wasn't just mine. It extended to everyone present. I had deceived not only my husband, but also the community that had embraced us. Daniel's fists clenched at his sides. "I gave you everything," he said, his voice breaking. "Our home, my trust, my love. And this is how you repay me." I wanted to explain, to justify my actions, but no words could excuse the pain I had caused. The room felt like it was closing in on me, the walls bearing witness to my disgrace. My best friend, Rachel, stood up, her face a mix of anger and sorrow. "We trusted you," she said. "I defended you when others doubted. How could you do this?" I opened my mouth to respond, but no sound came out. The magnitude of my betrayal rendered me speechless. Daniel took a deep breath, composing himself. "I think it's best if you leave," he said firmly. "We'll discuss the logistics later. For now, I can't bear to look at you." Shame washed over me as I stood, the weight of 100 eyes pressing down. I made my way to the door, each step heavier than the last. As I reached for the handle, I turned back, hoping for a glimmer of understanding, a chance at redemption. But all I saw were faces etched with disappointment and hurt. Stepping outside, the late afternoon sun mocked me with its brightness. The world continued to turn, indifferent to the chaos that had just unfolded in my living room. I walked down the street, unsure of where to go, knowing only that I had shattered the lives of those. I didn't go far. I wandered around the block in a daze, passing houses where people probably sat inside unaware, or maybe they knew everything. Maybe they had all seen the video. Maybe the whispers had already started, text messages flying, group chats lighting up. I ended up in a parking lot behind the local library, leaning against the cold concrete wall, trying not to fall apart. I still had my phone, even though I didn't dare look at it. It buzzed nonstop, calls, texts, alerts. I didn't check. I couldn't. Not yet. After about an hour, I opened it. The first message was from my younger brother, who lived 2 states away. "What the hell did you do?" Then Rachel again. "I can't even look at you. Don't contact me." Even my boss had sent something vague but cold. "We'll need to have a conversation on Monday. HR will be in touch." I stared at the screen, trying to breathe. This wasn't just my marriage falling apart, this was everything. Every piece of my life unraveling, burning down faster than I could grab it. I didn't have a plan. I ended up checking into a cheap motel about 20 minutes outside the city. It smelled like bleach and sadness, and the walls were thin enough that I could hear someone crying 2 rooms over. I wondered if they were crying over someone like me. 2 days passed. No one called to check on me. No one came looking. The silence was louder than any confrontation. But then something strange happened. A man showed up at the motel. I didn't recognize him right away, but he knew me. Said his name was Colin. "I'm friends with Daniel's cousin," he said. "He asked me to give you this." He handed me a small envelope and left. Inside were 2 things, a flash drive and a note. The note said, "You might want to see what else I found. Play this before you talk to anyone again." That's it. No signature. Just that. I stared at the flash drive for a long time before plugging it into my laptop. It took a second to load, then a series of video files popped up. At first, I thought it was more footage of me, another round of exposure. But it wasn't. The first video was of Daniel. He was at a restaurant, sitting close to a woman I'd never seen before. His hand was on hers. They kissed. Then more videos, more angles, different places. Hotel rooms. Parking garages. Him laughing, whispering things to her. Date stamps from last year. Months before I even started my own affair. My stomach turned. I watched every second, my hands trembling, my mind racing. He had been cheating on me, too. All that time he stood beside the screen in our living room, acting righteous, acting betrayed. He already knew. He was never blindsided. He had just beaten me to the punch. Set the stage. Made me the villain. I sat back, heart pounding. He had planned that entire moment. Collected footage, invited everyone, probably even rehearsed what he'd say. And now I had proof. I didn't know what to feel. Betrayed? Relieved? Angry? I started pacing the tiny motel room. My brain wouldn't stop spinning. This wasn't about just me anymore. This was something bigger. Why would he expose me like that if he had just as much to lose? Then a terrifying thought hit me. Maybe he didn't have anything to lose. Maybe I was the only one who had anything left to burn. I drove back into town the next day. I didn't go home, I knew better. I went to Daniel's office building downtown. He worked in finance, in a glass high-rise filled with other men in tailored suits who all looked like they were auditioning for a commercial. I waited until I saw him walk out to his car. When he saw me, his face froze. Like he'd seen a ghost. "You got my message?" I asked, holding up the flash drive. He didn't say anything. Just looked away. "Interesting videos," I said. "You want to explain why you went full courtroom drama on me when you were already screwing someone else?" Still no answer. "That wasn't justice," I said. "That was theater." He finally looked at me. "You cheated first." "No," I said. "You just got caught second." He scoffed, turned away, but I followed him. "You had everyone in that room thinking I was the monster," I said. You destroyed my life in front of my own mother. You let my father cry in that chair while you stood there like a martyr. Meanwhile, you were out doing the same damn thing. I didn't ask you to cheat, he snapped. You chose that. And so did you, I shot back. But I didn't ruin you. I didn't humiliate you in front of the entire neighborhood. What the hell was your goal? What were you trying to prove? He didn't answer. Just got in his car and drove off. That night, I got a message from Rachel again. You should talk to Molly. Molly was our next-door neighbor. Quiet. Kept to herself. Taught piano. I didn't get it at first. But when I knocked on Molly's door the next day, she opened it slowly, like she expected me. I figured you'd be coming, she said. We sat on her back porch. She handed me a glass of wine and sighed deeply. I'm the one who helped him set up the projector, she said. I blinked. Wait, what? He told me you were dangerous, she said. Said you were out of control. That you were gambling or on drugs. That he needed help confronting you. My chest tightened. I didn't know what he was really doing, she said. Not until I saw the video. I asked her why she hadn't said anything. She looked down at her glass. Because I've known Daniel a long time, she said. Longer than you think. And that's when it hit me. Oh my God, I said. You're the woman from the videos. She didn't deny it. Just nodded slowly. And suddenly, everything made sense. Daniel hadn't just been cheating. He had been building a case. A whole performance. With props, allies, even a mistress who lived 30 feet away. It wasn't just betrayal, it was warfare. I left Molly's place shaking. I didn't know what to do next. Part of me wanted to confront him again, to blow this whole thing wide open. Part of me wanted to disappear and start over. But another part of me, the part that had been humiliated in that living room, wanted revenge. I didn't know what my next move would be. But it wouldn't be quiet. And it wouldn't be clean. Because Daniel thought the story was over. But it wasn't even close. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the motel bed, staring at the stained ceiling, going over everything again and again. The videos. The living room scene. Molly's confession. Daniel's silence. The pieces didn't just add up to an affair, they added up to something darker. Something calculated. The thing is, Daniel had always been controlled. Calm, measured, never raised his voice. But now I started thinking about all the little things that had never felt quite right. The business trips that seemed too frequent. The way he'd track our finances like a detective. The way he always changed the topic when I brought up moving closer to my job. He hadn't just cheated. He had built a case. On purpose. For months. Maybe longer. And what made it worse was, I wasn't the first. 3 days later, I got another anonymous message. No name. Just a short line. Check the public records on Laura Fenner. 2019. I didn't recognize the name at first. But when I looked her up, my blood went cold. Laura Fenner had been Daniel's ex-fiancée. They had split before we met. I never knew why, just that he said she had problems. But when I dug deeper, I found court documents. Restraining orders. Complaints of harassment. Accusations of cheating, theft, even mental instability. Filed by Daniel. The story looked familiar. Too familiar. And then I found something buried in a blog post from an old community forum. Laura's sister had written about how Laura had been set up by someone she loved. About how her fiancé had made her look like a villain to everyone they knew. It sounded just like what had happened to me. He'd done this before. He'd dragged another woman through the mud, painted her as crazy, then walked away clean. I felt sick. This wasn't just revenge. This was a pattern. I was just his next project. I couldn't let it go. I contacted Laura's sister through social media. She was hesitant at first, but after I told her what had happened to me, she agreed to talk. We met at a coffee shop outside of Marietta. She looked tired. Not just physically, but like someone who had been carrying something heavy for a long time. I never thought I'd hear someone else say his name again, she said. Laura still won't talk about it. I asked what had happened. He broke her, she said. He made her question her own mind. Got all her friends to turn against her. Told people she was unstable. He'd plant things, emails, photos, twist facts, then act like the victim. I asked why she hadn't gone to the police. We tried, she said. But he's smart. Always stays just inside the lines. I showed her the footage of my confrontation. The living room setup. Her face went pale. It's the same, she whispered. He's not just cheating, I said. He's building narratives. She nodded. He builds stories. And makes sure he's the hero. That night, I finally did something I'd been avoiding. I went back to the house. It was late. Past midnight. I parked 2 blocks away and walked. The street was quiet. Porch lights were out. Everyone asleep or pretending to be. I still had my keys. I let myself in quietly. The house looked exactly the same. Nothing packed. Nothing moved. I went to the study, Daniel's thinking space. And that's where I found it. A folder. Locked in a drawer. Inside were printed emails, screenshots of texts, photos of me leaving hotels, even receipts. He had compiled a dossier on me. Like a detective or a stalker. But there was more. He had a list of names. 2 of them crossed out. One was mine. The other was Laura. Next to my name, he had written, reputation damage, 75%. Family impact, high. Recovery time, TBD. It wasn't personal to him. It was data. I flipped through more pages. And there it was, a profile of Molly. Notes on her habits, vulnerabilities, even a list of topics she talked about when drinking. He hadn't just slept with her. He had studied her. It was all manipulation. All control. I suddenly couldn't breathe. I stuffed the folder in my bag and left. Back at the motel, I scanned every page. The man I thought I married was not real. He was a performance. And every woman in his life was just a chapter in a story he wanted to tell. And now I had proof. But I didn't know what to do with it. If I went to the police, what would I even say? My husband emotionally destroys women for fun? They'd want hard evidence. Legal crimes. And he was too good at avoiding those. But I wasn't the same person who walked out of that living room. I wasn't going to stay silent. I printed copies. Sent a package to Laura's sister. Another to a lawyer I knew through work. I even mailed one to Daniel's office. Then I waited. It didn't take long. The next morning, Daniel showed up at my motel door. He looked calm, dressed for work. Like nothing was wrong. You've been busy, he said. I didn't answer. I knew you'd find it eventually, he said. That's why I didn't try to hide it. Really? I said. You keep your little murder board in your desk because you wanted me to find it? I wanted you to understand, he said. This isn't about punishment. It's about learning your place. Actions have consequences. I laughed. Actually laughed. He really believed this. You're sick, I said. No, he said calmly. I'm prepared. There's a difference. Then he smiled. Just remember, whatever you think you've got, I've got 10 times more. And then he left. Like nothing happened. Now I knew what I was up against. This wasn't about infidelity anymore. This was a predator. A man who used emotions like tools. A man who destroyed reputations the way others filed tax returns, carefully, strategically, without regret. And I was his latest subject. But I wasn't going to stay in the story he wrote for me. This time, I'd write my own. The folder changed everything. It wasn't just the evidence. It was the realization that I had never truly known the man I married. Everything he did, everything he said, every small gesture, it was all part of something bigger. A play. And I was just another actor in his production. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted truth. I wanted everyone to know the real Daniel. I wanted to burn down the version of him that stood so calmly beside a screen, humiliating me, pretending he was some noble, broken-hearted husband. So I planned one final confrontation. I reached out to Rachel first. She didn't answer at first, but after a few texts, I asked her to meet me. Just hear me out, I said. We met at the same coffee shop where I spoke with Laura's sister. Rachel looked tired. Older. She avoided my eyes. I don't know why I came, she said. Because you know something's off, I said. Because what he did, it wasn't just about me. I handed her a copy of the folder. The surveillance. The notes. The video timestamps that lined up with his supposed business trips. At first, she flipped through it skeptically. But then her eyes changed. Her fingers slowed. "You're saying he planned it all?" she whispered. "He did this to someone else before me. And he's already studying his next one." She looked up at me, stunned. "You need to see what I'm about to do," I said. "And maybe you'll finally believe me." 2 days later, I sent out my own invitations. Same format as Daniel's. Neighbors, friends, family. Except this time, the screen would show a different story. They arrived slowly, confused, hesitant. Some thought it was a reconciliation attempt. Others were just curious. Daniel came too. He stood in the doorway like a king surveying a battlefield. He was calm. Too calm. Like he'd already decided what lie he'd use to counter whatever I had planned. He didn't know what was coming. I stood beside the screen. Just like he had. "Thank you all for coming," I said. "I know this is uncomfortable. I know you've already seen a version of this story." There were whispers. Some looked down at their feet. Others watched me with guarded expressions. "I won't deny what I did," I said. "I cheated. I lied. I hurt someone who trusted me." Daniel crossed his arms, waiting. Confident. "But what none of you saw, what he made sure you didn't see, is what he was doing while pretending to be the victim." I hit play. Footage of Daniel and Molly. The timeline. The overlapping dates. Emails showing his manipulation. Voice memos he had left himself, coaching what he'd say in front of the projector. Even the folder with lists, profiles, psychological notes on multiple women, including Laura. The room was dead silent. Molly was there too. I didn't expect her to come, but she did. She stood in the back, arms crossed, pale as paper. "Is this a joke?" someone asked. "This is real," I said. "This is the man you saw make a fool of me 2 weeks ago. The same man who did this to another woman before me." Daniel laughed once. A dry, cold sound. "So what?" he said. "You think showing everyone I cheated makes you clean?" "I'm not clean," I said. "I'm just not a sociopath." He smirked. "This is desperate." Rachel stood. "Then explain the notes," she said. "Explain the folder." "The ratings. Reputation damage. 75%? What is that?" "Just strategy," he said casually. "When people betray you, you prepare. You protect yourself." "You lied to all of us," Rachel said, her voice shaking. "You made me hate her. You humiliated her in front of her parents. She deserved it." "She loved you," Rachel said. "We all trusted you." Then Molly stepped forward. "She's telling the truth," she said. "He told me he was testing her loyalty. That she was unstable. He never said he was married until after we slept together. He said she was dangerous." Daniel froze. More people stood up. My father. My sister. A neighbor from 2 doors down. "This isn't just cheating," someone said. "This is pathological." My mother was crying. She whispered, "How could you do this to our family?" Daniel stood still. His face changed, just a flicker. That calm mask slipped for the first time. He wasn't in control anymore. I walked up to him. "You wrote your version of the story," I said. "Now everyone's read mine." Then I walked out. The aftermath was messy. Daniel lost his job within a week. Turns out, some of the notes in that folder touched on business contacts, shady behavior, even some potential HR issues. Word spread fast. Our community turned quiet. Some people still stayed neutral, unsure. But most saw the truth. He tried to call me, text me. I blocked him. Molly moved out a few weeks later. Said she was going back to her sister's place in Asheville. She apologized to me before she left. I told her I didn't hate her. I didn't even blame her. We were both characters in the same twisted script. Rachel and I were talking again. Slowly, carefully. My family's still healing. It's going to take time. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. As for me, I filed for divorce. I changed my number. I'm seeing a therapist. I walk more. I sleep better. Not always, but better. I don't know what comes next. I'm not rushing to figure it out. But here's what I do know. Truth hurts. Sometimes it shatters everything. But lies are slow poison. And I'd rather stand in the ruins of truth than live one more day in someone else's lie. I'm not healed. I'm not whole. But I'm free. And for the first time in a long time, that's enough.